My sister framed me with a stack of cash she planted in my room, cried into my parents' chests like I was some kind of monster, and at 15 I got shoved out onto the porch barefoot with a trash bag in my hands. No questions. No chance to speak. Just a slammed door and cold concrete under my feet while my own home stayed warm without me. I didn't lose an argument that night. I lost my name. And what messes with you most isn't the money or the lies, it's how easy it was for them to believe the worst version of you. Weeks later, when I was sleeping behind a gas station and counting quarters for food, she got cocky. She bragged about setting me up like it was a party trick. And my mom overheard every word. Before I share my story, I want to know you are here with me. Just say listening in the comments or tell me where you're from. I love hearing how far my story can reach. Sometimes even the smallest connection can make a story feel heard. Thank you. And now, here's my story. If you've ever been the scapegoat in your own family, go ahead and subscribe because I tell the kind of stories people try to bury, and I'm not doing it for drama. I'm doing it so nobody feels crazy for surviving what happened behind closed doors. My name is Crosby Vance, and this is the night my sister erased me. Every time the Kansas wind turns sharp and dry, something in my bones remembers. Not the holidays, not high school football, not even Marley's laugh echoing in the bleachers. Just skin on cold concrete. Bare feet on the front steps of my own house in Overland Park. I was 15. I had a trash bag full of clothes, no shoes, and no clue how fast a family could turn on you. I'm 30 now, living states away, a different name on my lease and a life I've built with no return address. But when the weather shifts like this, I go right back to that night because that's when the truth got buried. I'm not telling this story because I want sympathy. I'm telling it because when someone lies loud enough, long enough, it sticks. And if no one ever challenges it, that lie becomes who you are. That's what happened to me. We were the Vances of Overland Park, yard trimmed weekly, driveway power washed every Saturday, matching church outfits every Sunday morning. A family straight out of a Hallmark brochure if you didn't look too close. Behind the curtain, things moved by different rules. My dad Harlan believed respect was non-negotiable, but only in one direction. Once he decided something, any attempt to explain yourself became talking back. My mom, Marjorie Marge, to her friends, kept the peace by siding with Dad, even when it cut her own kid in half. And Delaney, she was the golden child, 2 years younger. Big eyes, easy tears. Knew how to fold a story just right to fit the shape of whatever adults needed to hear. At 15, I wasn't a troublemaker. I worked odd jobs around the neighborhood, cutting grass, babysitting, raking leaves. I kept a little blue notebook where I logged every dollar I earned and saved. I had a plan to buy my own laptop and maybe help cover the cost of debate club trips. People like Mrs. Donnelly, the retired teacher down the street, would ask for me by name. She always said I was the kind of kid this place needs more of, but at home, none of that mattered. Delaney could spill soda on the carpet and they'd call it just an accident. I left the mower in the garage one afternoon and Dad launched into a 10-minute lecture on laziness and shame. I was never angry about the praise Delaney got. I was angry that I had to be perfect just to stay out of trouble. Looking back now, I can see the signs subtle at first. Delaney started asking where I kept my money. Joking, but not really. You don't just leave it under your bed, right? Or, what if someone broke in and found your stash? It was offhand stuff said with a smirk, but something about her eyes felt off. Calculating. There was this moment a few nights before everything blew up. I came upstairs after finishing a yard job and I caught Delaney standing outside our parents' bedroom. She was holding her phone but wasn't texting. Just standing. Like she was waiting for something. When she saw me, she startled, then smiled too fast. Looking for my charger, she said, and slipped into her room. I stood there another few seconds, not sure what felt wrong, just knowing it did. I didn't have a word for it at the time. Paranoia. Maybe. But sometimes your body knows before your brain catches up. And mine was bracing for something. They say in some houses you get cast into a role and no matter what you do, you stay in it. The reckless one. The quiet one. The golden one. I was the problem. They didn't need evidence, just a believable excuse, and Delaney was about to hand them one wrapped in tears. Blue Valley High was a place where stories spread faster than facts, especially if you gave people just enough to feel like they knew something no one else did. That's what Delaney did. She didn't come at me all at once. She built a case in whispers. Crosby's been acting weird. He snapped at me last night. I think he's really stressed or something. I started noticing how kids from our youth group looked at me in the hallway like they were bracing for me to explode. I hadn't done anything, but their eyes said I had. Delaney didn't need to say it was me. She just let people fill in the blanks. At home, things started shifting too. One afternoon, I opened my drawer and realized something had been moved just slightly. I kept my cash folded under a sweatshirt at the back. It was still there, but the fold was wrong, like someone had checked it and tried to make it look untouched. Delaney suddenly took an interest in my side hustles. She asked how much I made, how I got paid. "Do you ever put it in the bank?" she asked once, chewing a pencil. "Seems risky to keep it around." I shrugged her off, but it left a sour taste in my mouth. Dad had this habit of leaving his wallet on the dresser in their room, cash for tips or errands. I never touched it. I didn't have a death wish. But one night I overheard Delaney in the kitchen with Mom. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, I was just heading downstairs for water. I heard her say, "I don't want to make this a thing," but I saw Crosby going through Dad's stuff. I stopped cold. Mom didn't ask for proof. She just let out this long sigh, the kind she used when dishes weren't done or the laundry got left in the dryer. "I'll talk to your father," she said, quiet and tired. In that moment, I knew I was done. The seed was planted, and no matter what I said now, it would sound like denial. I texted Marley that night, told her something wasn't right at home, that I felt like I was walking into a setup. Like she's baiting me, I wrote. "I don't know how to explain it." Marley replied, "Don't wait too long to speak up." I didn't know how to tell her it was already too late. That Sunday we went to church like nothing was wrong. Dad shook hands with the pastor and a few guys from the board. He loved being respected, admired. Delaney played the perfect daughter, smiled, nodded, took notes during the sermon. She was praised for breathing. I just sat there trying to feel anything but dread. That night, Dad stormed into the kitchen, said something was off, money missing. Not much he said, but it's the principle. He didn't accuse anyone by name. He didn't have to. In this house, he said, someone doesn't know what shame is. Delaney stood beside the fridge, silent, eyes wide and solemn, like she was trying not to cry. That silence screamed guilt, but not hers. I tried to stay calm, said I hadn't touched his wallet, that I was saving for school stuff. He looked at me like I'd just confessed to murder. Later that night, I sat in my room with my old laptop open, downloading music. I probably shouldn't have been downloading anything to feel normal. I heard murmurs outside my door, footsteps pausing. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel accidental. And then nothing. The house went still. I lay there frozen under my blanket, heart pounding in my throat. I knew if they walked into my room right now and found something, anything, I wouldn't be able to prove it didn't come from me. That's the curse of being the problem. You don't get the benefit of the doubt. You get the sentence, no trial. Somewhere around midnight, I heard the soft creak of their bedroom door. Then footsteps coming fast down the hall. My doorknob turned, hard, like someone had been waiting for the moment I let my guard down. And that's when I knew I wasn't going to survive the night with my name intact. It was just past 11 when it started. I was in my room, hunched over my old laptop, finishing up a history worksheet and half watching some grainy YouTube video. Nothing out of the ordinary, just trying to feel normal, like the house around me wasn't breathing something sour. Then the door slammed open. Not just opened, slammed. It hit the wall so hard the frame shook. My dad stormed in like he'd just caught me with a lit match in a gas station. My mom was right behind him, tight-lipped, arms folded. And there at the edge of the hallway, framed by yellow light, was Delaney. She was crying. Shoulders shaking, hand gripping the doorframe like she might collapse from the weight of her own sobs. "He took it," she choked out. "He went through your wallet, Dad." I saw him, My brain didn't even process the words right away. I looked between them, Mom's mouth a straight line, Dad's fists already clenched, and I froze. "What are you talking about?" Dad didn't answer. He was already moving. My backpack got yanked off the chair and dumped on the floor. My dresser drawers flew open, clothes tossed out like they were on fire. I stood up, palms raised, words scrambling out of me. "Wait, what is happening? What are you even looking for?" He didn't say a word. He just grabbed my pillow, ripped it off the bed, and shoved his hand underneath. And that's when he found it. A wad of crumpled bills, 20s, 10s, 5s, smashed flat like someone had jammed it down fast and messy. He held it up like a dead rat. "You think I wouldn't notice?" My breath left me. Not because it was there, because I knew exactly what was happening. I looked at Delaney, and for a split second her face slipped. Her lips twitched, not fear, not guilt, satisfaction. She caught herself fast and ducked her head like she was ashamed, but I saw it. "I didn't put that there," I said, voice steady. "You know I didn't." Dad ignored me. "That money was in my wallet yesterday. You think I just forget where I leave things I've been saving? Ask Mrs. Donnelly. Ask anyone I work for. I don't need to steal from you." I looked to my mom, begging her with my eyes. "You know I wouldn't do that." She didn't meet my gaze, just stared at the floor like it was easier than seeing me beg. Delaney sniffled. I didn't want to say anything, but I saw him, and I got scared. What if he got angry? I stared at her. "What are you talking about?" "I didn't know what to do," she whispered. "He was acting weird all week. What if he hurt someone that landed like a punch?" "No," I said, stepping back like I could distance myself from the lie. "That never happened. I've never touched you. I've never even yelled at you." But it didn't matter. Dad's face changed, switched tracks like a train. This wasn't about the money anymore. Now it was about his daughter being afraid. He moved fast. "Get out," he said, voice low and final. "What, you heard me. Pack your things. I didn't take anything. You lied to us. You made your sister feel unsafe in her own home." I turned to my mom again, like maybe she would finally speak up. But all she said was, "You need to leave, Crosby." It was like the sentence had already been typed, printed, signed. Dad grabbed a black trash bag and started shoving my things in it. Shirts, socks, whatever he could grab. He didn't check if it made sense. It wasn't about sending me away with what I needed. It was about getting me out fast. He tossed the bag at me, then my backpack. Then he grabbed my arm and marched me down the hallway like I was a thief caught in the act. Delaney followed, silent now. Right before we hit the door, she leaned in, close voice, barely a whisper. They were always going to believe me. At the threshold, I reached for my shoes by instinct. My sneakers sat by the door like they always did. But as I bent down, Dad shoved the door open and pushed me out barefoot. "You want to come back?" he said. "You admit what you did. You apologize to your sister." I stood there stunned. "I didn't do anything. You're letting her lie to you." He slammed the door shut, and that was it. I stood on the porch with a trash bag and a half-zipped backpack, cold concrete biting into my feet. I stared at the door for a long time, part of me still waiting for it to open for someone to realize how insane this was. But it stayed closed. Lights off, curtains drawn. Silent, like I'd never lived there at all. I wasn't being punished. I was being erased. I took a breath, stepped off the porch, and felt the wet, bitter chill of Kansas night wrap around my ankles. For the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to have no home, even when you were standing right in front of it. I walked until my feet felt like open wounds. Overland Park at night isn't loud, but it's alive, dogs barking behind fences, sprinklers, hissing cars humming past. I hugged my trash bag like it meant something, like it could explain why I was out here with nothing but the clothes on my back. I circled the block once, twice, waited behind a hedge across from our house, watching the windows like they'd light up, like someone would remember I existed. But no light came. No silhouette in the doorway. Just silence. I thought about sleeping in the park, but the benches were damp, the air sharp. And if a patrol car passed, I'd have no explanation. No ID. No shoes. So I started walking toward Marley's house. I didn't know if she'd even be awake, but I knew she wouldn't ask questions right away. When she opened the door and saw me barefoot damp dragging a garbage bag behind me, her mouth opened like she might say something. But she didn't. She stepped aside. She didn't press. Just handed me a blanket and a Tupperware of leftover spaghetti. Her living room smelled like cinnamon and laundry. The floor was hard, but it was warm, and the quiet wasn't angry or heavy, it was safe. I tried to explain what happened, but the words came out scrambled. They didn't even ask. They just believed her. She cried, and that was enough. Marley sat beside me and didn't say I told you, so didn't offer empty hope. She just sat. Later she whispered, "My mom's not big on drama. You can stay a couple nights. But that might be it." I nodded. Even that was more than I'd expected. The next morning, her mom drove us to school early before neighbors could see. I shoved the trash bag deep into the trunk, hoping no one would notice. I hadn't showered. My hoodie reeked of sweat and sleep. Every hallway I walked through felt like it stretched forever. In class, people looked at me different. Not shocked like they already knew. Like they were waiting to see if I'd snap. When I sat down in English, a girl slid her purse away and whispered to the guy beside her, just in case. At lunch, I approached my homeroom teacher to ask if he could help me call my parents, maybe straighten things out. His face tightened. "They've already been in touch. Said you're going through something." I didn't know what that meant, but I could guess. Whatever version they told it was winning. By day 3, Marley's living room felt smaller. Her mom caught me alone and said kindly but firmly, "We're not set up to take care of another kid. I hope you understand." That afternoon, she dropped me at school and said I couldn't come back. I sat through geometry like a ghost, staring at the clock. During lunch, I saw Delaney across the courtyard with her group of friends. She wasn't crying now. She was laughing. Like nothing had happened. She caught my eye and didn't flinch, just tilted her head, smiled slightly. I passed a group of freshmen and heard one of them whisper, "That's the kid who stole from his dad. Supposed to have anger issues." And just like that, it was done. It didn't matter what I said anymore. I wasn't just kicked out of my house. I'd been kicked out of the truth. There's something humiliating about having to ask for a place to sleep, not because you want to, but because you've run out of anywhere else to go. I started with a kid in my biology class. We'd worked on a frog dissection together once. I told him it was just for one night, maybe 2. He looked nervous, but said okay. That night, I slept on his couch with the TV buzzing low in the background. The next morning, his parents didn't say a word to me. He avoided eye contact all the way to school. By lunch, I got a text. "Hey man, sorry, my parents said they're not cool with it. Hope you find somewhere." I tried again with another classmate this time, someone from gym who once gave me a ride after practice. Same story. One night, quiet looks at breakfast and the awkward morning shuffle out the door. Everyone's too afraid to ask what really happened. They don't hate me, they just don't want to be involved. So I stopped asking. That's how I ended up behind a Quick Trip curled up next to a recycling bin. It wasn't warm, but there was enough light from the sign to keep me from being totally invisible. Not that I wanted to be seen, I just didn't want to get jumped or swept away by a city worker with a flashlight and questions. I balled up my hoodie under my head and used my backpack to shield my chest. The trash bag was my windbreaker now. My sneakers were still wet from walking all day and my socks had holes in the toes. Around 2 a.m., someone walked past me, maybe a worker taking out trash. They looked down, not shocked, just disgusted. Like I was gum stuck to the sidewalk. The next day I went to the Johnson County Library and sat in the far back near the nonfiction section. I pretended to read a book about car maintenance, but I was just waiting. I knew they closed at 9. Around 8:45 the lights dimmed, and I slipped between 2 shelves trying to be small. I thought I'd made it. But the flashlight found me. "You can't sleep here," the security guard said, as if I hadn't already figured that out. He marched me out the side door like I was a shoplifter. "You come back, we're calling your school." Or worse. I slept behind the library that night in the narrow space between a fence and the building knees pulled to my chest. At school, things only got worse. The name started Thief Bum Psycho. Some kid in a varsity jacket shoulder-checked me in the hall and muttered, "Watch your pockets." I shoved him back. Reflex. The teacher who saw it pulled me aside and said if it happened again, I'd be suspended. Didn't matter that he started it. I was already on the school's radar. I started to wonder who Delaney had talked to, who she'd whispered her version of the story to, laced with just enough fear to make people lean in. Maybe the church friends. Maybe the school counselor. Maybe both. Her lies were spreading like ink in water, hard to trace back to one spot but impossible to ignore. I was down to my last few dollars. I ate crackers and gas station sandwiches. I drank from water fountains. One night I stood in front of the Quick Trip hot case for 15 minutes, staring at a slice of pizza so hungry I thought I might cry. The guy behind the counter watched me like I was casing the place. I walked out empty-handed, didn't steal a thing. But the shame clung to me like grease. The next day I sat in front of Ms. Pritchard's office until she finally let me in. She was the school counselor, kind I'd always asked if I was okay. I told her everything, about the night I got kicked out, about the money Delaney planted, about sleeping in parking lots. She listened, nodding, but when I mentioned Delaney, something shifted. "Your parents reached out," she said gently. "They're worried. They said you've been unstable lately, that you might be making things up." I stared at her. You believe that she didn't answer directly. "Even if what you're saying is true, Crosby, we need proof before we can intervene. Otherwise, we risk making things worse." I felt like throwing up. They'd gotten to her too. My own parents. They didn't just throw me out, they rewrote me. That night I ended up at a park bench near the bus stop. I hadn't eaten in almost 24 hours. My stomach ached, and my hoodie smelled like mold. I huddled into myself, hoping to be invisible. Headlights swept across the bench. I looked up and saw my dad's truck. The door opened. "Get in," he said flatly. I didn't move. "Are you here to take me home?" "No, I'm here to give you a choice." He stepped closer, arms folded. "You come home, you apologize to your sister, admit what you did, and we move on. Otherwise," he paused. "You keep doing this, I call the cops. I tell them you've been loitering, begging for money, maybe even stealing. I'll tell them you're a danger to yourself and others. None of that's true. Doesn't matter," he said. "What matters is the story people believe." I shook my head. "I'm not lying. Delaney set me up." He didn't flinch. "You keep saying that, and I'll make sure no one hires you, no one helps you. You'll be a stain." He walked back to his truck and drove away without another word. And that's when I knew he didn't come to help me. He came to bury me. The silence left in his wake was worse than the cold. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I just sat there, hoodie pulled over my head, trying to make myself as small as possible. I started making survival rules: eat once a day. Stay where people can't see you, but where you can run if you have to. Never trust a bathroom mirror. Keep your phone off unless you need it. Save every % of battery like it's gold. A few nights later, I was back behind the Quick Trip, tucked between two dumpsters. The smell was awful, but it was hidden and dry. I was halfway asleep when I heard footsteps. I tensed, heart pounding. Then I heard her voice. "Wow," Delaney said. "You really are living like a raccoon." She was standing there dressed in her usual polished layers, holding a bottle of Gatorade like it was a cocktail. "This is sad, Crosby, but not surprising." "What are you doing here?" I asked, standing up too fast, head spinning. She shrugged. "Just wanted to see how long you'd last." I stared at her. "Why? Because I can," she said plainly. "Because everyone already thinks you're dangerous, unstable. I just gave them what they were waiting for." I felt sick. "You actually planned this?" "Oh, come on," she scoffed. "You were never the favorite. Mom and Dad barely trusted you. I just helped them get to the part they were too scared to admit." She took a step closer, eyes glinting. "You think I liked being perfect all the time, always compared to you? Even when you were screwing up, I had to be flawless." "Then why not just talk to me?" I asked. Why not tell the truth? She rolled her eyes. Because this is easier. Because now you're the problem, and I'm free. Then her voice dropped. And if you try to tell anyone I set you up, I'll say you're stalking me. I'll say you threatened me. Who do you think they'll believe, the barefoot freak living behind a gas station? And with that, she left. That night it rained. Hard. Kansas-style cold sheets of water that soaked you in seconds. My hoodie gave up, my shoes filled with water, my trash bag split open, clothes spilling out onto the curb. I picked them up one by one like they were parts of me I was trying to salvage. I ended up under the awning of a laundromat that had closed hours ago, shivering, hungry, defeated. That's when I saw her Marley running toward me with an umbrella soaked to the bone. I've been looking everywhere, she gasped. Jesus, Crosby. You're freezing. She handed me a paper bag, warm food, a bottle of water, a dry pair of socks. She crouched beside me, wiping rain from her face. I heard something she said. Delaney was at that party over the weekend. She told people she planted the money. I blinked. What she was bragging, saying you were stupid for not seeing it coming. Everyone laughed. No one cared. I held the socks in my hands like they were relics. But I care, Marley said. I believe you. And if we can find someone else who heard it, maybe we can start undoing this. The rain had started to slow. The streets shimmered under the glow of streetlights. I stood up slowly, hugging my backpack to my chest. I'm not hiding anymore, I said. If I don't fight back now, she wins forever. And for the first time in weeks, I meant it. I didn't knock like someone asking for permission. I knocked like someone announcing they had survived. After that night under the laundromat awning, soaked and shaking, something in me calcified. I wasn't hoping for a miracle. I wasn't coming back to beg. I was coming back because if I didn't say it now, if I didn't force the truth into that living room, I would vanish under the weight of their version of me. I cleaned up as best I could in a gas station bathroom. My face was pale in the mirror, streaked with dirt. I wiped it down with wet paper towels. My hoodie smelled like mildew. I tied the tattered trash bag back together, shoved my balled-up clothes into it. Everything about me screamed exhaustion, but my spine stayed straight. The house looked exactly the same. Porch light on, windows glowing warm. Like I hadn't been sleeping behind buildings and flinching at every cop car. I stood at the edge of the driveway, my breath caught not from the cold, but from the reality that this place, my home for 15 years, hadn't paused once in my absence. I was the only one carrying the wound. I walked up the porch and knocked. Delaney answered. Of course she did. She looked me over like she'd expected a version of me crawling back begging. Her eyebrows rose when I didn't flinch. I'm not here to stay, I said. I'm here so you all hear me. My mom appeared next, clutching the ends of her cardigan like a shield. She said my name like it was foreign. Dad came last, arms folded, jaw set, still trying to be the man in control. No one invited me in. I walked in anyway. I stood in the middle of the living room and forced my voice to stay steady. You think this is about the money? I began. It's not. It never was. It's about how you've treated me since the beginning. How every time something went wrong, I was the first to blame and the last to believe. Mom's eyes flickered. Delaney could do no wrong even when it was obvious. Like when she plagiarized my science project in 8th grade and cried her way into a better grade. Or when she blamed me for skipping class even though I was sitting right next to her. Delaney leaned against the wall, arms crossed, a smirk tugging at the corner of her mouth. This isn't about one night, I said. It's about 15 years of you choosing the version of events that made her the saint and me the screw-up. Dad finally cut in, voice hard. You're not perfect, Crosby. You've always been difficult. No, I said, I've been human. And every time I tried to defend myself, you made me out to be dangerous. He didn't deny it. He just shifted the blame. Delaney works hard. She doesn't get in trouble. She's earned our trust. There it was. The clearest admission of all. She didn't have to be truthful. She just had to be easy. I turned to Delaney. Look at me and tell me you didn't plant that money behind my pillow. She didn't hesitate. I didn't plant anything. She said, her voice syrupy and mocking. "You're just upset you got caught." I stepped forward. "Swear to God you didn't." She tilted her head, smiled. "You wouldn't believe me if I did." I saw it clearly then. Delaney didn't care if the truth ever came out, because she knew they'd still pick her. Dad exploded. He hurled the glass in his hand. I don't even think he aimed it, shattered inches from my head, spraying shards across the floor. One sliced across my cheek. Another nicked my palm when I instinctively shielded my face. Blood ran down my wrist. "Get out of my house," Dad growled. "You come in here accusing your sister, causing chaos. You're lucky I don't call the cops." I didn't move. "Call them," I said. "Tell them you threw your 15-year-old kid out barefoot. Tell them you smashed a glass at his head." His face twisted. I picked up my bag and stepped toward the door. "You already chose Delaney. You chose her when you believed her lie over my life. But one day, maybe soon, you're going to see her for who she is. Don't come looking for me then." I walked out. Halfway down the block, I heard footsteps. I didn't turn around. I didn't have to. "You know they'll never believe you," Delaney said, falling into step beside me, perfectly composed under the street lamp. "No matter how loud you scream." I kept walking. "You're the mess, Crosby. You always have been. I just gave them the story they were too afraid to say out loud." Then she said it. "I planted that money because I knew they'd believe it. Because I knew they wanted to." I stopped. She didn't. And just over her shoulder on the porch, bathed in light, a figure stood still, frozen in place. Mom. It happened in an instant. The air snapped. Delaney saw my eyes shift behind her and turned slowly. Mom stood at the edge of the porch, her hands clenching the sleeves of her sweater, face drained of all color. Her mouth opened, then closed. She stepped forward. "What did you just say?" Delaney froze. Then, as if rewinding a film, she smoothed her voice, softened her tone. "I didn't mean he's twisting my words." But Mom didn't blink. "I heard you." Delaney started to panic. "You don't understand. He's been pushing me for weeks, saying horrible things. I was trying to protect. I heard the whole thing," Mom said, and this time her voice didn't waver. There was a long silence. Then the front door opened again. Dad stepped out, clearly braced for another confrontation, but stopped short when he saw the scene. "What's going on?" Mom turned to him. She admitted it. She planted the money. His face contorted. "That's ridiculous. Ask her," Mom said. He turned to Delaney. "Is that true?" Delaney folded her arms, defiant. "So what if it is? You're the ones who always talked about how hard he was, how much easier life was without him around." The mask cracked. She didn't even try to lie anymore. She blamed pressure, expectations, said she had to be perfect, and that I made her life hell by simply existing. "And you believed it," I said, stepping closer. "You believed her without question. You threw me out barefoot. You let me be humiliated, starved, scared. For what? To protect your illusion of a perfect family?" No one answered. "I've been sleeping behind gas stations," I said. "I've been chased out of libraries, treated like a criminal in school, lied about, laughed at. You didn't just pick the wrong person to believe. You destroyed a kid because he was inconvenient." Mom flinched. "You want to fix it?" I asked. "Then do it right. Tell the truth. Publicly. On Facebook. In your church groups. In the family chats. Wherever you let Delaney's story spread, put the truth there too." Dad's eyes widened. "We're not airing our dirty laundry." "You already did," I snapped. "The second you let Delaney's lie become the official version. I was the one out there being gossiped about. If you're scared of the fallout, maybe you shouldn't have let your daughter make me the villain." Then something shifted. Mom pulled out her phone. Her hands shook, but she looked me in the eye. "What do you want it to say?" I told her. Every word. She typed as I spoke. That I had been wrongfully accused. That Delaney had confessed. That they believed the wrong child. That I was kicked out and hurt because of it. That they were sorry. And she posted it. Right there on the porch. Dad didn't stop her. He didn't move. As comments rolled in, some horrified, some offering apologies, some asking how they could make it right, Delaney's face went from pale to red to a kind of blank terror. "My life is ruined," she whispered. Dad looked at her, then not with sympathy but disappointment. "You did this to yourself," he said quietly. For the first time in my life, he didn't shield her. He didn't protect the lie. He let it land. I stepped forward past all of them. "I'm going to bed," I said. No one stopped me. No one said I couldn't. I walked through the front door and up the stairs. The hallway smelled the same old wood and detergent. I passed Delaney's room without looking. Pushed open my own. Nothing had moved. I dropped my bag and what was left of the trash bag. I lay down on my bed mattress, stiff under my back, and stared at the ceiling. They said sorry. They told the truth. But the cold nights didn't disappear. The scar on my cheek still throbbed. My belief in family had a fracture that would never heal clean. Still, I was home. Not because they welcomed me, but because I took my name back. And this time they heard me. I used to think family meant safety, meant home. But the truth is, sometimes the people who raise you are the same ones who teach you how to survive without love. What happened to me wasn't just a betrayal. It was erasure. I was erased from my own story, rewritten as the villain in a narrative I never asked to be part of. But I fought to take it back. Word by word. Truth by truth. And now I know being believed isn't a gift, it's a right. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt voiceless or erased, know you're not alone. Your truth matters. And if you believe stories like this need to be heard, please subscribe to this channel. It helps more than you know, and it makes sure the next time someone gets pushed out into the cold, they won't have to walk that road alone.